Hello everyone, welcome to this Google Digital Garage session on social media strategy. I'm Annie and I've been working with the Google Digital Garage for over 5 years now. So welcome to this free skills training program. I've been, as I say, training with the Google Digital Garage for a long time, and my whole career has been in marketing pretty much. And I've also had my own online business, so I know about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. So hopefully I can bring something to this session today. Very fortunately, we are not alone. We are joined by the lovely Sarah, and you'll be able to find her in the chat box. So you can recognize Sarah by her name and also a blue spanner next to her name. So please do engage with her. We absolutely love talking to you and sharing with you and seeing how we can help you. There'll be a number of pauses for questions throughout, and Sarah will also be answering a number of the questions in the chat as well. Now, this is part of a bigger initiative, and if you go below this link, you'll see the g.co/digital garage, where you'll be able to sign up to our other courses. And if you're having any trouble at all with seeing or hearing us at the moment, just try simply refreshing the screen, and that often irons out many of the problems. Now, in order to chat, don't forget to sign into YouTube. It will just take a couple of seconds to do so. So if you have a second to do that, that would be great, so that we can get the most out of this session together today. So we're going to split this into 3 parts today. The first is looking at how social media can help grow a business. Now, many of us have used social media personally in our own lives, but we're going to look today at how we can use that from a business perspective and what we can do to help support and grow your business. The next we'll look at is how to build a social media strategy, and ultimately how we might measure that for success, because we need to be able to see our results at the end of it. And finally, a few best practices in order to implement that in the real world. Now, hopefully you'll get a lot out of this session today, even if it's just one thing to take home with you and make a difference to your business. But we also offer free one-to-one training coaching as well. So this is available if you are a small UK business or charity, and you simply go to g.co/UK mentoring. So whether you're wanting to reach new customers, build an audience, or you're simply wanting to grow and develop sales, it could be a way forward for you to have a conversation with one of the many mentors on the program. So please do sign up to that while it's available. So now we're going to look at how we can use social media to grow a business. And as I say, we're very connected to social media now, and we're going to explore some of the ways that we can help use that impact that we're having in the social media space, and how many people are out there in order to improve our opportunity as a business. So first of all, there are massive numbers, huge numbers on social media. In fact, they have grown since this time, because these dates were pre-COVID. So you can imagine it's even higher now. So 44 million active users as was on social media, and even more since 2018 when these statistics were taken. And show your hands, put your hands up, or a virtual message to say how many of you are actually on there, so that we can see, the reality of those results. And here's another statistic: 1 hour and 54 minutes of use average per day on social media. Now, I know for definite in the last few years that has escalated quite dramatically. And I personally know that from my own experience of using social media. And I wonder if it's the same for you. So YouTube is now the #1 platform in the social media space at 85% penetration in the UK, followed closely by Facebook at 78%. So they are the 2 big players in the social media world. And although there is Twitter, Snapchat spoken of, and Instagram, they are less so in regards to numbers. So 45% for Twitter, 30% for LinkedIn, and 29% for Instagram. So the numbers are lower than we would have thought, perhaps, but they have also probably grown in the last few years too. So let's see what we can do with this. So we've never been more connected, have we? So social media is becoming a big place for us to hang out, so we can reach new audiences as a business. And with that amount of people, 84% of the UK population, we know we're going to reach high numbers. Now, when we go on social media, we go there to get distracted, to get entertained, to find information, and we go in a mindset of being there and hanging out with our friends. So if we're thinking of Facebook, we're thinking of a different mindset to other platforms. So we're going to talk about platforms while we're on here as well. But the first thing to consider is that we're going to reach new audiences on different platforms in different ways and in pretty big numbers as well. The next is, by being on social media, we're able to create new opportunities. So new opportunities gives us a way to facilitate and to interact with customers in a way we might not have been able to do predating social media. So one of the common exciting things that are being used since the COVID times is quizzes. And the way we can use quizzes as owners of businesses is we can engage with our public. For example, if we have a financial company, we can ask them, what is your saving style? So we can engage with them in interesting questions while still garnering more information to help support value and usefulness to our audiences. So we can create new opportunities by doing these interactive engagements with our users and finding out more about them so that we can provide them with answers to things that they might want to use in your business as well. One of the beautiful things that we can do in social media is target specific customers. So by actually having specific customers to talk to, knowing who they are, their demographics, their lifestyles, their interests, we're able to go micro in and micro target those audiences with messages that matter, that are compelling and valuable to that audience. Because by knowing them, we're giving them something that they're going to find interesting. As mentioned with the quizzes, we start to find out a bit more of an idea about what our customers want. So by using that information in the best way and intelligently, we can really make a difference to our customers' lives. And that's where they'll start to really connect with us and find us useful and valuable to them as a customer. Also, of course, building relationships. Now, we're not just talking about building relationships with our customers. We can also build relationships with the general public, people out there, awareness of us. We can also build relationships with our employees. So there's and with other, say, influencers and ambassadors. There's lots of ways that we can build relationships in the social media world. And it is a real way to generate a business and to develop and grow a business. So in the offline world, we build businesses through our relationships, and we do that just as much in the online world, and particularly in the sociable place that is social media too. So how can we add value to the brand? Well, social media really supports us in doing that. So first of all, it can help raise customer service levels. So by actually connecting with our customers in that space, we can create automated tools on different platforms. We can also commit to certain guidelines about how quickly we'll respond, and they'll be able to access us more regularly than, say, in just a 9 to 5 process. So a lot of people do use social media to raise the customer service standards, and some use a platform with its only mission to be a customer service support. So, for example, many might use Twitter for that purpose, and then that will be its main aim, to actually support customers with any kinds of queries, which might include Q&A hours, etc., that they might put onto to Twitter as well. The other great thing about social media is supporting that two-way conversation. Now, back in the olden days, it used to be a one-way communication in marketing. So it used to be parent-child relationship through the TV, etc. But now, with the advent of the internet and social media, we're able to really create those true conversations with our customers. We get to know them. We can also start to let them know about us. So we can tell them a new side to our business. We can tell them about behind the scenes. And I'll bring up this example a few times throughout this session, but I think the example that is useful to smaller businesses is other smaller businesses. And there's one lady who created an accountancy firm, which is now winning lots of awards and growing very quickly, even throughout the pandemic, who I will refer to throughout this session, I'm sure. But she basically shares the story of her own growth of her business. And that's really important, because that will be of value to her customers, which are also businesses that are trying to grow as well. So they're speaking in the same language. So you can show a new side to your business, you can show behind the scenes how your company came about, or again, share a story of value that they can really relate to and connect with as you go. And of course, you want to build your own community and get some super fans. Basically, if you start to get real support on board, you can create what we call user-generated content. And user-generated content is where you get your customers to create content for you. That's the holy grail, actually. Because if you start to get support from your customers where they're showing testimonials or your product in use or the effectiveness of the product, for example, that shows credibility from the mouths of your customers, which builds trust in your organizations, its product, and can only serve to do good. So certainly you can start to build your own community with social media too. So that's not the only good thing about social media. It can actually help improve your overall marketing. For example, have you ever spotted your tweet coming up in the in the search results? That will be as a result of some effective social media there as well. And it helps you to understand, as I say, your customers better. So you can find out who they follow and when they follow, information about your customers. Because if you really discover more about them and also your competitors, you can start to see what is coming next, what works well, what might not work as well, and who your customers could well be as well from that. So lots of benefits to having this insight and exposure on social media as well. So the other thing that it does is it helps gain those valuable customer insights that we were talking about. So once we do these competitions and quizzes where we start to collect this rich information about our customers, we can then use it to support new products, new discounts, new ideas for the business. And don't be scared to really get them involved. The more involved they are, the more likely they are to be a virtual salesperson for your business or an ambassador for your business. You could even ask them, which kind of offer should we do? Which is most popular to you or most interesting to you? Giving them different products or different discount types, buy one, get one free, or 50% off, different ideas basically to get them engaged in your brand. If they feel that they have contributed, they certainly are going to get involved, as I said. The other thing is talking about your next new products. So what products should we sell? Asking them questions, or, you know, where should we go next with the business? People like to be fully involved. And as well, don't forget again about those competitors, and they give things away quite publicly, especially on Twitter. So do have a look at what they're doing and what you can learn from them from that as well. So these are some of the key questions, and these came up a lot in the garages over the years that I've worked with it. And they're common questions as well with clients. So first of all, are my posts on social media driving people to my website? So what's very interesting is we can get quite carried away with the vanity figures of number of likes, of engagement on the page itself, say on Facebook or whatever platform we're choosing to use at the time. But actually, if our goal is to create sales or to get people driven to our website, then that isn't necessarily going to be useful to us in the longer run. So looking at our analytics and having analytics on our website will help us to see where our customers are coming from, including what posts and what platforms on social media. So it's certainly worth having your analytics in place. If you don't yet have analytics set up, we do have a session on Get Started with Analytics that I fully recommend going to as well, again at g.co/digital garage. So what kind of updates should I post? So it's difficult, isn't it, to come up with new content ideas all the time, and I fully appreciate that. One of the things you can do, apart from looking at what competitors are doing, is to use a tool called buzzsumo.com. Now, BuzzSumo is a paid-for platform, but it does have a free trial each month on there, which is one go a month. It's keyword led, but what you can do is you can see the article titles that have worked well on, say, Facebook, other platforms. And if they've had a lot of shares, you might want to therefore use that same title to recreate, say, a video or a infographic with the same material, because you know that that itself has worked before. So it's worth reusing that content too. So have a look at that and consider also what kind of updates to post from your analytics, what's worked well in the past, and how effective were they, and maybe do more of that as you go. When is the best time to engage? So this is really important actually, because if you have people that are commuting, for example, between 5 and 6, and that's when they're going to look at their updates most regularly, if you don't post at that time, then you may not get seen. So it is important to look again in your analytics for your social media pages. Each of them have their own performance analytics, and see what's working well in terms of the times. Also, who are your most influential followers? Now, this is useful because if you know who your influential followers are, you can reach out to them, build a relationship, and maybe partner with them if they're a really big contact as well. So you can find this out through Google Analytics. You'll be able to see on referral links who's come to you and where from, and also in social media where people are coming from as well, so that you can then reach out to those people and talk to them and perhaps create that relationship that you want to do. This is all about helping target your customers carefully with the right information, and also getting as much engagement as possible. So there's a few things to remember as well. And we have, as I say, been very exposed to a lot of virtual media throughout the last few years. And so attention spans have been shrinking. And even before the pandemic, it was around 8.25 seconds on average attention span. But actually that is right the way down to sort of 3 seconds for the social media world. So we are now writing for the goldfish. And if you're wanting to know how to write promotionally and for social media purposes, please do look at our writing for social media course as well at g.co/digital garage. But yes, attention spans are short. So that means we have to write something that will really distract them, that will make people stop their thumb while they're scrolling and pay attention to you. So it is worth sitting that course to find out a bit more about how. And obviously the content has to be, as we say, because of the competition, very arresting, very interesting to the user. So have a think about those values that work for them, what they would be interested in. We'll go into a bit more about that later on as well. There's this real misconception that social media is free. It's actually not, from many different points of view. One, there is a time that you have to allocate to creating content, a resource to making that content. And also there's only so far that your content will spread without having to monetize it to get it seen. So it's not free, and it is all about your time and energy that you're putting into that content. So it's worth considering carefully what content and where you're going to put it before just creating lots of it. But we'll go into that as well. Once it's public, it is out there. So, you know, you must have heard of different PR disasters in the past where people have put things out and perhaps regretted it later on. It's really important to consider the kind of values you want to share with your organization and what your organization stands for, and be committed and consistent to that, and be aware of that being public and that being part of your personality, your DNA as a business as well. So just a quick stop for questions. Buna Prima channel. If I want to expand my market coverage, but the market is now looking at more entertainment content and that's not the market I'm targeting, then what should I do? It's hard to be too specific here, Buna Prima, without knowing more about your offering as a business. So I would definitely, if you're a small business or a charity in the UK, book into that mentoring one-to-one. But if you're looking at simply how to connect with your target audience online and you're not wanting the entertainment style, you're really perhaps thinking more about tone of voice, and the value that you want to bring to them might be in, say, an educational way instead. And that's perfectly fine. So when, again, referring you back to the writing for social media content, you'll be able to discover that there are different tones of voice. There are different personalities that we might want to portray online. And actually, that can be a good thing, that you are a bit different to your competitors. But yeah, think about maybe signing up for that one-to-one for a bit more information, sitting in the writing for social media. And please do ask any further questions as we go. And thank you for that one. So now we're going to look at how to build a social media strategy. So to really truly get the opportunity out of social media for your business, it's important to have that strategy ready and available because it's something we can go back to. And marketing is all about iteration. So it's about learning, doing, seeing what works, and then repeating what works and stopping what doesn't. So it is very much constant iteration and constant learning. So strategy will help us to give us a guide to what has or could work well. And by being prepared that way and reflecting on what we've done as a strategy is very useful to taking us into better content into the future as well. So now we're going to discuss the key, if you like, building blocks towards that strategy and to see how we can track your efforts too. So there's actually 5 steps to creating your strategy. And what we want to do to begin with is really to think about who our audience actually really is, as opposed to who we might want them to be, and really getting that clear. So we'll go into that in a bit more. But the 5 steps are that we start with defining that all-important audience, because if we try and speak to everyone, we actually don't speak to anyone. And I know so many clients have said, this is for everybody, my product and service. And I fully understand what you're saying, especially if you're passionate about what you do, which is brilliant. That's exactly what we want, passion for your businesses. And that makes sense. But actually, there will be, if we think about it, a portion of people that are far more committed and obsessed with our products and services than others. And they're the ones that we want to really focus on, because the idea of marketing is cutting out wastage. So it's about really being very clear, very concise on where we want to focus our efforts. 1, because it will reduce spend on trying to pay for reaching all audiences, and 2, we can make our messages far more specific to the audience if we know who they are and what they're made up of. We're then going to set our goals, because obviously without a goal, it's like throwing a dart into space, really, isn't it? We haven't even got a goal to reach. So it's important that we know what we're doing it for. Many people will, what we call spray and pray, set out with social media, set up lots of it, put lots of content out there, but not actually have a plan for why that content has been created in the first place. The next thing is to carefully pick your platforms, because there's a lot out there, plethora of them. There's more and more all the time, and they all sound extremely exciting. But actually, again, if your audience isn't on that platform, there's not really much point in us being on there, apart from for our own entertainment, really. So it is important to know, as I say, who your audience is in order to place your platform, your content in the right platforms. And then finding your social voice. So again, back to Banu Primer channel. Thank you for that question, because it is a really important thing, what our tone of voice is going to be and how we'll be reflected in the online world. Because if we have the tone of voice that celebrates what we're trying to do and who we're trying to reach, it's going to really add value to the business. So we're going to have a look at our social voice. And then we need to decide, we need to make a decision what success will look like for us as a business too. So the first step is something that I want you to take away with you and to spend some time over, because if you're thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know who my audience is, many of us do not. So you are definitely in the majority rather than the minority. But being able to get to that position of knowing will make all the difference, as I say, to your business. So really invite you to spend 10 minutes of your time tonight, if you've got the time available, or put it into the diary. Definitely commit to this, to find out the following information. Who are your audience? What are they into? What or who influences them? What kind of people in the online space are influencing them? Are there any celebrities, etc., that might influence these people too? When are they usually online? So time of day, so that we can apportion our content to the right moments. And also, what social media do they actually use? So there's different ways we can find out this information. So Google Analytics can help give us some data so we avoid assumptions, but there's other ways alongside it. The first is to actually speak to people. You may already have an established business and an audience, and that's great. So if you speak to that audience, you'll be able to find out more information that you can zero into. You can maybe do a questionnaire, a focus group, whichever, or an interview, whatever works best for you as a business. But you can find out how what their interests are, so you can start customizing and targeting messages, and find out, why do they shop from you? What is the main thing that they find of interest? But yes, your staff may well be speaking to these people every day. You might be able to find them through the analytics online. And also you could email them and ask them information too. What you want to then do is identify those segments or groups that you are creating from this information. And then you can split them in and put your focus marketing efforts around them. So you can start to see, for example, new customers that perhaps have bought a certain product before, or customers that have certain interests or things in common. We'll talk more about that. And then build an online survey so that you can find out from your customers directly what sort of interests or challenges they may have that you can support them with as a business. There's obviously Google Forms, SurveyMonkey, other providers out there that you can use to connect with your audience for that information too. The other thing I want to point your attention to is the Google Marketing Platform, because that has a lot of information in there in general about marketing. But if you're looking for social media, you may also want to look in your Google Analytics, your Facebook Analytics and Twitter Analytics, and others depending on the platform that you're using. Because in there is rich information such as their age, their gender, and you might be able to find out, for example, the time of day that they were coming to you. So this here is a screenshot of the Google Marketing Platform and demographic behavior report. So do make the most of these kind of tools so that you can discover more about the information of your customers, so you can make all that marketing material far more relevant and interesting to your customers too. So as I say, we don't want this spray and pray effect for social media or for our marketing in general. We want to be far more committed to our goals as a business. One, because we want to profiteer from it. We want it to make sense to our business in one way or another. And the other is so that we can actually make sure that we can evaluate that the goals are being reached with the content we create. Every piece of content really should have a goal in mind, but we should consider as well the platforms themselves individually for goals. Some of the goals that you might consider could be better customer service. So you might use social media, as I say, for that purpose, and that could be your sole purpose for a particular platform of social media or for social media in general. You might decide that you want to use that just to prove that you are an excellence in customer service. So some businesses literally thrive and survive by having one thing that they are exceptionally good at against some competitors. So unfortunately, I can't remember the names, but I think somebody in America, I think it might have been Warren Buffett even, talked about a company that was started by a rental car company in America, and they only had 14 cars on their forecourt. And they didn't really have anything else, but they were absolutely committed to the idea of becoming a very big, a very well-known rental car company. And what they discovered was they, against their competitors, had brilliant customer service, and what the others didn't have was excellent customer service. So they focused their entire efforts just on customer service. They now are one of the biggest companies in the world for rent-a-cars. So it is really all about looking at how we can stand out and be really, really good at one thing. And it might be that social media is the place that we showcase that. So if we want to be very good at customer service, we may pick a platform such as Twitter to show that and to be fully responsive and to ensure that all our employees know that that is what we're committed to, that we're going to answer within X amount of minutes, that we're going to give an exceptional customer experience, that we're going to deliver on what we say we're setting out to do as a business. And of course, credibility and trust is so huge in the online world that if we have a company that we feel represents a trustworthy service, it certainly gives us the edge as a business, and many customers will more likely want to buy. Think of yourself as a customer. You're more likely to buy and to promote and recommend that business. The other thing is to grow brand awareness. So social media can literally do everything in what we call the sales funnel or the marketing funnel. Everything from reach, engage, activate, and nurture. So If we want to reach new customers, we can do that. And it might be that we're looking at brand awareness, and 80% of our time and efforts will be spent on the awareness piece. So social media can be a great way to reach those new customers. We already know how many are online in the UK across those platforms and across indeed the world. If we want to generate more sales, of course, social media can support that process. What we don't want to do is to sell through social media, because it's, by virtue of the name social, it is a place to grow and develop relationships. And if you think of any relationship in your life, if you feel sold at or pushed or forcefully be encouraged into something that you're not wanting to do, it's going to put you off rather than attract you to it. So if all you're seeing is sale, offer, you won't feel that it's anything but a product. It won't have a soul, it won't have a feeling to it, it won't have a reason for you to want to connect with it, or to stay engaged with it, or to promote to anyone else. So have a think about how you will use social media as regards selling, but obviously it can support a sale, especially if you're getting good user-generated content from your customers who are talking with credibility and value from themselves and their own experiences, which is a wonderful way to engage your public. Getting more people on your site, certainly it can do that. So make sure that the content you're putting on there is giving a link to go back to your website, so that we can measure that that is what you're achieving, because it's a really useful thing to drive awareness to your website. Because while social media is great, and you might already sell on social media, so it might not be as prominent a concern for you, but if you have a website, it's where you can start to build your own customers. You could perhaps collect email addresses through a pop-up on your website as well. So there's ways around wanting to attract people to your site, not only to browse, but also to engage and to collect information as well, in order to develop relationships going forward. And of course, we're not just thinking about social media in terms of your customers directly, but more about as well connecting with influencers. So as I said, there'll be people that will want to shout from the rooftops about you in terms of your customers, but you also will already have people out there that love your products or services, or products and services like yours, or just your ethos and values. Certainly during COVID times, there's been a real increase in people wanting to talk about their values, wanting their values supported, for example, sustainability. You know, people that really genuinely, in the DNA of their hearts and companies, are talking about that on social media, are engaging people on something that really matters in the heart. So win hearts and you will win minds. And that is where it starts. So social media can be a really valid opportunity for encouragement of that connection with influencers, and building up that collaborative relationship to expand your business to people that care about what you care about, and so you can support one another. So the first thing I really want you to do after this session as well, well, it's the second thing, because the first thing was the audience piece, getting to know who they are. And the second is set one goal. Set one goal for your social media. Which of those that we've just covered do you think you'd like to focus on first, and which platform? You'll get that once you know more about your customer, of course, but then you can focus in, deep dive into what that goal will be. And what's shown on the screen here is something called the Double Diamond Framework. And this is about problem solving for businesses. And it's a very popular one that's been used all around the world, and really heard many times since 2014 when it was first established. And the first part of that framework is discover. So what is the goal that will help your business? So out of those goals we discussed, which of those goals do you think is going to support you at the moment? What stage are you at in your business? Is it that you want to drive more awareness? Is that the prominent issue right now? Or is it that you've got a lot of customers, but you're losing their momentum, or they're not staying with you? The loyalty's not there. So maybe we want to look at loyalty and nurturing and customer service on our platform. So have a think about what it is that you're going to focus on as a goal. The next thing is define what are the things that could get in the way. So any of those ideas that you have are likely to come with some barriers. So if we start to consider those in advance, we're able to deal with any mitigation of problems as they come. So let's have a think now about what kind of things might get in the way of us creating that goal. Is it a resource-based issue? What kind of things will hold us back? Develop. So what do you need to do to achieve that goal? So in order to have that goal that we've got in mind, what steps do we next need to take, and how will we take them? What action will we do? And then we want to deliver. So how can we remove those barriers we'd identified in order to make this all work for us? So this is worth doing, but what I want you to consider is to take from this one goal that you want to do for social media tonight, if you can. So the next step along is looking at our choosing of platforms. As I say, we will start to talk to our customers. We will find out where they're hanging out. We'll also be able to see where our competitors hang out, which will all be indicative of where we might want to be or spend more time. But the other thing to consider is, are we a business-focused enterprise or are we a consumer-focused enterprise? So if we're talking from business to business, we might be thinking of platforms like LinkedIn and Facebook. They're the predominantly popular ones for that channel, for business to business. But if we're looking at consumers, we may, for example, depending on where our target audience is, we might be looking more at, say, Instagram and Facebook, for example. But what we want to do is to think about the kind of content we'll put on there, and whether we're going to make it lifestyle focused, maybe a day in the life of what problems will we solve for these customers and how can we engage our public. We also need to think each of these channels will require investment, both time, money, effort, and it's not free. So we want to be sure that they're the platforms we really, really want to be on. And don't just be on all of them for the sake of it. It's just going to become a lot of work, and it doesn't look super cool, honestly. It just will drive away you mad in the end, and drive away the customers you really want by you placing emphasis and time in the places that your customers aren't. And it might make you look not really relevant to your customers if you're on the platforms that they don't want to be on or aren't on, for example. It might not be as useful. So don't be worried about not being on everywhere. Just think about where you might want to be and what's right for you in terms of time, resources, money, as well as your audience. So have a think through that. Now, if you are looking at B2B, I mentioned LinkedIn, I mentioned Facebook, there's things like SlideShare that you might want to think about, and other ways of getting that creative message out there. So do take into account the kind of service or product you're offering as well. So if you are a very visual product, Instagram and Pinterest may still have its place, say if you are a interior design company. But think about the platforms carefully alongside your business, its audience, and your availability and resources. So let's run through some channels now. So we're just going to do a very quick run through the top level of these channels, just to give you a bit of an idea as to what they are offering. So Twitter, I'm sure many of you have heard of. It's like real-time information, quick, short, sharp bits of information. And it's, as I say, often used for customer service intent as well. And what we're showing on the screen here is the Dollar Shave Club. Now, if you've not come across Dollar Shave Club, please Google it because it's so funny. They did a great ad that has created a real viral spread in the very best possible way and resulted in lots of sales for the brand. And what they did was they used, as I said, quizzes, ways of connecting with their audience, and they found out that they had an interest in the basics. They didn't want to have the all singing or dancing, more Gillette style razor. They just wanted to get the job done, and they didn't want to spend a fortune on it. And because of that, they were able to address that in the way that the tone for the brand, which is humour, to their manly audience. And those polls reinforced what they were trying to achieve, and the research that they did throughout social media supported their plans as well. So there's lots of ways that you can use polls on Twitter and connect with your audience to make the most of your business too. Remember to keep a really consistent spread. So you want that image on Twitter to match the one on Facebook or whichever platforms you're selecting, because that one voice, one look is important to the audience. They need to know that who you are and what you stand for quickly. So what your image is for the brand, the logo, for example, the color scheme, and maybe a quick line about what your business is there to do, the value it's going to bring. So have a think about that. And also do use relevant hashtags. So hashtags is essentially bringing everyone on one subject into one room, one virtual room. So bringing them into the subjects that matter to your audience and to your brand in particular is really a good thing to do. And join those conversations. It's not just taking information or giving information. It's collaborating with people as well, including retweets and engaging. So have a look at all of that, and also pin those tweets that are most relevant to your brand right to the top too. Now, Facebook, this is a more visual platform. It's like the shop window of your brand and can be, and it needs to have some good call to actions. Now, a call to action is asking your customer to do something and to take an action as such. So if we're wanting, for example, Facebook to be a place to connect with us as a brand, we want them to come to our website, then we might want to link them as much as we can to our website as a call to action. So that is one option that we might think of with Facebook, but we also need to be rich with our details, especially in these changing times of when we're opening, when we're closed, and the basic contact details. Because if people can't find you and don't see all your details as being publicly available, that could affect your credibility and trust of that brand as well. And again, because we are building relationships at a distance, we are needing to build trust in every aspect that we can. Also, looking at your call to action buttons in terms of shop now or contact us. So you can switch around with your contact us buttons into what you would like to use. And it's a huge place for video. So Facebook is a really attractive place for people to go in terms of video because it's motion, sound, it's really personal. And if you yourself are the brand, great, get in front of the camera. So we'll talk a bit more about that later on. But there's a real culture and growth around video because of that reason. So yes, do that. And now Instagram, obviously a lot of people have been growing in Instagram in the last couple of years. And Instagram is a place where we like to bring reels to life. Again, video storytelling, really visual. And you'll see here the letter folk example from Home Decor. What's great about this is it's consistent, the brand image. I was talking about consistency earlier. One voice, one look. You can see in those visuals, there's a blackboard in each one. And what that can do is to create that consistent look so that when we see something like that, we know that that is them coming up in on our feed without it seeming too disruptive, and it's more pleasant to the eye, and it's a creative way of showcasing what we do to our public. Be careful on the hashtags. There's so many different viewpoints on how many are too many. It has been suggested that 15 to 21 is about the range that people will use. But also do use influencers and brands or people that you find interesting to reach out to and connect with. Again, this is a grow together thing. So social media is growing as a team of people rather than just you on your own. So it's all about how can you get people to grow with you and connect with you and you connect with them. So just see it as a jigsaw of connections of how you can make your values, your ideas, and your purpose come to life as a business. LinkedIn. So if you are business to business, it's a great place to be, but it's also really important to let people know about you as a company. So on here, we've got the example of L'Oreal, and they like to post thought leadership blogs. And if you are business to business, that's a great thing to do. And also to reach out to groups and engage with them and let them know your thoughts. You can win business that way. And they like to post 4 pieces of content a day. So LinkedIn is quite heavy with its content, L'Oreal with its LinkedIn content. But they'll trial and test that and see how effective that is for their audience. But certainly, they like to share a wide range of content that's available to everyone, and they interview their employees. So it's like an insider look at what the company does. And if you think about it, we all want to know, what is it really like in that business? Because that will, again, develop our belief and trust in that brand, because how they treat their employees, their internal customers, is how they will impact us as external customers too. So think about building up that page. It also helps with SEO because you'll be found in the search engines more readily if you have it being shown up in LinkedIn. So it will mean that you'll be more available. And it will be a way to showcase what you do as a company and show the behind the scenes of the business and show that personality as well, which is really important because, again, we are people meeting people. So we are, whether we're a brand, whatever, we're building that relationship with others. YouTube, as I say, this is the leading social media platform. It's not considered social to many of us because we see it as not the same as, say, Facebook, but there is a conversation to be had on YouTube. So it is social media, and it is where people are spending their time. It's hundreds of millions of hours being spent on there, taking in the content. Again, back to the fact that we like to absorb motion sounds. We like to connect with the story. We like to feel the brand because really we are people wanting to meet other people. And there has been a YouTube director for business app that has been created for small businesses to get to grips with online. So it's worth looking at. And now we've got more short form video. People's attention spans are short, so they are sometimes popular and growing in popularity. So have a look at the recent trends, and there's something called the Creator Academy you might want to have a look at as well for YouTube. So step 4 then, this is the social voice, and this is back to an earlier question from Banu Prima. Social voice is key, so we need to think about this in a bit of depth, and that all is built out of the personality of our brand. Again, sit the writing for social media to find out a bit more about that. But what you want to do, even if it's just you, is establish some brand guidelines. Let yourself and your new employees know about what your offering is, what your do's and don'ts are, the logo you're going to use. You might have a grayscale and a color one, but let them know which ones you're using, the fonts that you want to be known for, and your tone of voice. You know, are you going to be humorous? Are you going to be serious? Which way are we going to go? And do's and don'ts, what won't we talk about? You know, let's avoid that public issue of having spoken about something that we don't necessarily agree with as a brand, or we don't think is right, because that can impact our reputation very quickly. And also the style of images. I think it's Soap and Glory have like a nostalgic image, and every time you see it, it steps out to you. So think about the style that you use and help to stand out. So back to the tone of voice. Are you going to be friendly and fun? For example, you can pick a few things. You don't just have to be one on the screen. So you might be, say, friendly and casual, or you might be provocative and fun, or you might be friendly and fun. Think about what kind of tone fits your industry, you and your audience best. And make sure you stick to those principles across your platform and how you operate as well, so that people do feel they're speaking to a customer, and think about how they may react to that tone as well. So this was a campaign that you may remember. It was a number of years ago now. I think it might have been 2015. It's called This Girl Can. And it was recognising that so many people, I believe around 80%, somewhere around that figure, of women wanted to get into sport but were not doing so. And so what was looked at was the barriers to entry for them. What was making them not do it? And what they discovered is that they felt quite uncomfortable in themselves, and they were sort of not wanting to expose themselves in sports. So this campaign helped bring that narrative into a range of platforms where those customers were hanging out, and got them engaged in real stories of women that have taken it on board, and the fun and enjoyment they're getting from doing those sports. And as a result, the outcome for that social media campaign was huge. It was 23 million social reach for that campaign. So a massive reach, and an awful lot of followers. I think 42 million it might have been on Twitter, and 42,000, not million, and 130,000 likes or votes on Facebook. So an awful lot of engagement based on that understanding of what matters to the customer, what that narrative is, and how to use that messaging to speak and appeal to the customers where they are in a way that matters to them. So have a think about those things for your own business now. Now, the final step is the measurement. How are we going to define this success? So first of all, we need to not be distracted by numbers, because using the wrong numbers can take us away from our whole goal, our whole purpose on social media. So think about, are we looking at sales? Is that our goal? If it is, what is a smart goal, a specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely goal that we can create for our sales? Or are we looking at traffic, numbers of people coming to our website, for example? We might look at Google Analytics to discover that information. Or is it how many influencers we're connecting with? We might measure by the number of influencers we're getting, or the exposure we're getting from those influencers, and the value from it. If it's customer service, we might see if our call rate has reduced, or if our review ratings have gone up, for example. And if we're looking at general awareness, we might use what we call social media monitoring tools that we can get through using mention.com, socialmention.com. And certainly as we grow, we'll be able to put in our brand name. But to start with, we might put in products and services and see what people think about our industry, and what people are saying about us. So think about what success means to you. And then when something does go well, when a piece of organic or content that you've created yourself works really well, consider paying for it to amplify that message, because Going organic can only go so far. It really goes to the people that are already on your page and to those that are already engaging with you quite regularly on your page. So think about how you can reach a wider audience that are specific to your demographic. You can target really carefully on your, for example, Facebook ads now. So you'll be able to reach those audiences that you really want to. And think about this across all platforms that are performing well. So the content that performs well on those platforms, do consider amplifying with. And you want to do this especially if sales is your goal and you're finding that some of your content has driven to sales. So do more of that works. So that's just bringing it all together for you. We've talked at the beginning about audience, so you've got some homework for that and finding out who they are so that you can make it relatable, like the This Girl Can campaign. We've also talked about the goals. So what goal will we have and how can we overcome barriers for that goal? Considering carefully one or more channels that will be relevant, specific to our users, but also are available to our time and resources constraints. We've also discussed tone of voice and the importance of bringing that to life, and then some final ideas around what success might look like in terms of metrics. So in terms of questions, I believe they've been amazingly answered in the chat by Sarah. Thank you very much. She's an absolute superstar. I'm sure you'll agree. But I've just seen from Hugh Pierre, should we have different goals and personality voices for every social media account we have? So your tone can change. I mean, you might on one area be really quite, formal, let's resolve your customer service complaints, say on Twitter, but then you may be more lighthearted and playful on, say, Facebook. It really does depend, as long as overall you stick to the main themes of what your values are, what your do's and don'ts are, and what you care about as a business. That's really important. Your personality will be shown by, you can still be quite, professional, but fun as well. So you can have a fun and a formalish tone at the same time. So you can take their concerns seriously, but you can also have fun in terms of the engagement posts that you might want to create. So I hope that answers your question. And Kieran, what's the benefit of real versus video versus image content? Real versus video versus image content. Well, they all have a different amount of connection with the customer. So we all learn differently. Some of us audio visual. So some may like audio visual and some may like visual. They will have different exposure volume and value to your platforms that you're on and to your customer. But what's really benefit is looking at the metrics for your particular customers, because we can have generalized statistics, but looking at what your customers are actually saying and doing in regards to their response to your content is going to be the most valuable that you can have. And also maybe having a look at the effective spread of your competitors in similar ways too. So I hope that answers your questions. Now, the last few minutes, we're just going to look at some tips and best practice for you. So this is all about content. I want to point you again to BuzzSumo, because BuzzSumo will help you with coming up with some different ideas for content. But what you want to think about is looking at behind the scenes. Now, I mentioned earlier on about the lady who I wanted to come back to, who was an accountant and set up a brand that's now become really popular. Now, what she does is she live streams every day. She talks about her journey as an accountant and as a business owner, and she really speaks the language of them. And she talks about mental health. She talks about her business itself and the highs and lows and all the steps she has to take around confidence in growing her business. So her main aim is to support people with growing their business in a well-being and a confidence aspect. So it's really useful. Now, she will, for example, use that content as behind the scenes, non-promotional content, but it will actually lead to developing customers, because those customers think, my language, what problems I'm going through. So when we're talking about non-promotional content, what we're really talking about is what matters to your customer and how can we share that narrative with them. Again, This Girl Can campaign, what sort of messaging do we need to make to let them know we can hear them, we understand them, and we're there to support them with that. Announcements, occasionally you are going to want to put in new product or service announcements. They want to see that. They've signed up to it. So don't be shy of doing that. Just don't do it too often. Also, the how-to, this is important. Your brands, products and services, you really want to kind of show some tips. And if you're able to get customers involved to creating ways that they've used your products and services, all the more better. Maybe you could incentivize a competition to get people to share that. Some sales, they'll expect sales in interim times. Just don't do them too often because it can become overwhelming. And make sure that there are regular themes with your content, maybe motivational Monday, etc., that they'll come back to. And show that you're responsive and engaging with your customers. And let them know that there is a person there. And your personality behind the scenes is the key thing, as well as the job opening. Remember, offline moves online. So we all are in what we call an experience economy, really, which means that we want to experience things a million times over and often through our screens. So think about ways that if you have a tangible product that you sell offline or online, that they can use to create an online experience. So Coca-Cola, for example, had the name on the bottle that really drove people sharing the bottle names. Is there a way that you can do that and make them feel that you're speaking to the customer in a personalized way with their names, for example? Or that may be way too expensive for you as a business, but maybe there's other aspects that you can do to bring it to life. Starbucks, for example, had Christmas cups or different things for different seasons. So what ways can you engage with your customer to make them want to share your experiences, and how can you make them authentically engage with your brand in a relatable and timely way to what's happening in the world around them at that time? So these are some great tools, and we promised tools, so these are some to consider. Canva is a fantastic tool. Now, Canva has saved me so much money. Before Canva, I spent so much money on designers in a way that I didn't necessarily need to. And it helps us with our graphics in a simple way. I think it's around £100 a year, more or less. But it is free if you're just testing it out and not using it as a business. But what it does do is it makes your content into certain sizes for different social media. So it's already done the hard work for you. If you want a banner, if you want a Facebook ad, for example, all those visuals are already there alongside offline stuff like posters, etc. for your business. So for your marketing efforts, canva.com is a great place to go and to test out different social media concepts and ideas. Also, don't forget to check your grammar. Now it can be really difficult because you might have a lot to say and content can be written quickly. So Grammarly.com is a great tool for checking your grammar and spelling, but it is an Americanized tool. So just bear that in mind. It's a good thing to use, but also it is Americanized. So keep that in mind. And you don't want to be, or you might not have time to be sitting and compiling content as it happens day in, day out. Unfortunately, we have lives and businesses to run, and we know that time is a limited resource in our businesses. So one thing we might want to do is to schedule our content. And there are a number of tools out there, Buffer and Hootsuite, that you might want to try, hootsuite.com, that you can set up in advance for the more reactive posts, proactive posts, and then still be reactive, of course, be available to any comments that come in throughout the time as well. But for actually creating content, do consider scheduling it and having it all ready so that you're not having to be there at specific times, that you know your customer will be online, but that you may not or may not be available that day. And it also means that that's set up for you and it's organized in advance so that you can get about the more important parts of your business. Now you've got the knowledge, let's see it in action. So the first thing I want you to do after creating that audience breakdown tonight and reaching out to your audiences over the next weeks to months is to consider, what are my goals? What is social media here to do? What is the aim of having a social media platform? What is the purpose of the platform I am using, or platforms? Is there going to be a mission per platform? What goal overriding would I like to achieve from doing this? Because this is time, effort, resources that you're going to be putting into this activity. Then consider having a defined tone of voice for the audience and the content. So making that just crystally clear, because again, you're bringing to life your persona, your personality, your reality as a business, and building that relationship with your audience and customers. And then you need to choose the right platforms to focus on. So consider which platforms they are going to be on. Make sure that's completely true of your customers and go from there. No questions, and I'm sure that's due to our wonderful Sarah in the chat. Thank you so much, Sarah, for answering these questions for us today. I'm sure you will agree she's been brilliant. Now, some next steps for you. The next steps are go to that g.co/digital garage, sign up to some of the courses mentioned throughout here, including Get Started with Analytics and Writing for Social Media. And there's many more besides as you grow as well. And please do have a look at the Digital Garage for the further information and tools that we have available. Alongside this, don't forget, if you are that small business or charity, g.co/UK mentoring is a brilliant way to have your one-to-one. And all that's left to say is thank you, Sarah, and thank you. We know attention spans are small, your time is precious, and thank you for your time. And I hope you've taken one thing away today. Please add in the chat the one thing that you found useful for this session, and I wish you the very best of luck and hope to see some of you in those mentoring sessions or a future training session. Thank you. I've been Annie and Sarah's been our great moderator. We hope to see you soon and do share your feedback too. Bye for now.